Hello, everybody, and happy Friday. First of all, welcome to another YouTube live. And this time, I wanted to provide a quick update on the K1 visa litigation. I know that we talked about all the different lawsuits that happened in the past few months, the DV lottery, and all these other lawsuits that are pending right now on the CR1 family petitions, and of course K1 visas have been significantly affected. They kind of fell in between all these visas, and to this day we have clients that are waiting and not getting their visa. So in this live stream, I want to talk about what's happening right now with K1 visas. I'm talking to clients every single day. We are filing expedited cases every single day in many consulates and embassies. So let's talk about what's happening. I'm going to give you an update on the litigation and what to expect next and who is going to be benefiting from all this. So make sure you stay tuned, and I'll be back in just a second. All right, so let's talk about K1 litigation. For those of you that are here for the first time, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our live videos. I try to come on live as soon as there's a big update, or at least every other week. And also give us that big like so that YouTube is going to be able to show this video to many more people just like you. If you're here for the first time, my name is Jacob Sapochnik, and I'm an immigration attorney. I'm based in San Diego, California, and I help clients in all 50 states. So let's talk about K1 visas and K1 litigation. So as you know, if you are watching my channel, if you filed a petition for a fiance visa, you know that right now it's almost impossible to get an interview for your K1 visa fiance. And it's unfortunate because families are being separated. People are not able to, there are essentially cases where families, the fiancés had their interviews scheduled sometime in March, in April, in May. Those interviews were canceled. And to this day, these people have not received new interviews. We also have people that their cases are still stuck at the NVC level. They're not even sent to the embassy yet. Embassies are reporting that they are not doing appointments. K1 visa was supposed to be a priority, and that notice was ignored. And right now the situation is that K1 visas, fiance visas, are essentially stuck. And so what happened is that yesterday a few law firms, Greg Siskin, who's a friend of mine, his law firm, and I think two other law firms, they put together a group of about 200 K1 visa families in many different consulates and embassies around the world, and they filed a lawsuit. The lawsuit is called, if you want to follow it, it's called Milligan versus Pompeo, and this was filed yesterday. They had the initial hearing yesterday, and I believe that they filed their preliminary injunction today. And essentially what this litigation is about, it's about two things. First of all, all the proclamation and the bans that they've been issued. The idea is that these bans, they are not stopping the embassies from actually issuing visas, right? So these are entry bans for people that are being able to come in and out of the U.S. The actual proclamation, the actual travel bans, they are not stopping the embassies from actually issuing visas. And that's literally what's happening right now with these embassies. They're not issuing visas. The second thing that this lawsuit is supposed to do is address the unreasonable delays that these applicants are facing. So I just this morning I spoke to two K1 visa families, and I see a lot of you guys are here in the comments. Let me say hi to David Gonzalez, Abdullah Ibrahim, Marlene, Baha, Thank you guys. And so I said, this morning I spoke to two families. One was, their interview was scheduled in March, and to this day, nothing from the consulate, nothing, no information as to when the interview is going to be rescheduled. And then the other family, their case is stuck somewhere in the MVC, have not even been processed to get to the embassy, and there's no reason, there's no explanation as to why it's happening. And there's so many stories like that. And of course, over time, we were able to, we continue to try to file expedited requests every single day. But that shouldn't be the way. That shouldn't be the way for things to progress. And therefore, this litigation was filed. So what is actually happening here? I took some notes here. The preliminary injunction hearing took place yesterday. The idea is that they're trying to request from the court to take action now before there's going to be even more irreparable harm for these families. So they're asking the courts to look at that reasonable delays that are currently taking place in almost every single embassy in the world. The arguments are, again, that the proclamation, they're basically banning visas. They're banning visas under Section 212F. And what this section essentially does, it actually stops the entry of certain people to the United States. This section of law, 212F, gives the president the power to stop certain people, from coming into the country. It doesn't stop embassies and consulates from actually issuing visas, right? And so that's another thing that the lawsuit is going to take, the judge is going to look at and say whether the government is actually applying the legislation correctly. Again, this particular lawsuit is involving about 200 plaintiffs, different plaintiffs that are involved in the K-1 visa process, that they have delays. And essentially, if this injunction will be granted, if certain decisions will be made by the court to force the embassies to allow these plaintiffs to get their visas, it will also help other K-1 families, even if you're not involved in this litigation, just so you know. So if they're going to be successful and they'll be able to get what they want, what they ask from the court, it's going to help other families as well. So even if you're not a plaintiff, of course, the way I think it's going to work is that the government is going to try to make this issue moot. So they're probably going to start issuing visas or schedule appointments for the plaintiffs first, just to say, hey, we schedule appointments. There's no need for you guys to sue us anymore. And then, they may, obviously open up the door for other plaintiffs to be able to get their visas as well. So that's the idea here, saying that Section 212F of the proclamation is designed to prevent from people entering the U.S., but it's not a section that will stop the embassies from actually issuing visas. And that's an important point to do that. Now, what can practically the judge do in this case? I mean, the judge cannot order the embassies to open their visa sections right away. I mean, the idea is for the court to look at it and say, yes, this was unreasonable. These people are waiting too long. You do have the power to start scheduling appointments. You are abusing your discretion. Things like that the attorneys are trying to present to the judge to be able to show where is the issue. Of course, the government is going to claim that nothing is wrong. There are visas being issued in some consulates. They argued yesterday that there are no unreasonable delays. Consulates are reopening slowly, and they are issuing visas. And so obviously they're going to try to find every way to negate what the plaintiff are saying. Let's see here. So the idea is that they're going to look at whether interviews can be scheduled right away, and people that are waiting unreasonably are going to be put in a priority to be able to get their interviews. And again, this is something that the judge will be. The judge asked yesterday, he wanted to see where are the statistics, kind of like in the DV lottery case, where they were able to show, hey, here's how many DV lottery cases are not being able to get interviews. Here's how many people are going to be impacted if they won't get their visas. So the judge is asking for a statistic. Well, I want to see how many K1 visas were actually issued, how many K1 visas were actually stuck and pending. So they have 2 weeks right now to get that information before the second hearing, where hopefully there's going to be a decision made. But there was no statistic presented to the court to be able to see as to exactly what's happening right now and how many people are actually being impacted by all this. So, I mean, just so you know, that if you compare, and this is some of the numbers that are being discussed, if you compare how many K1 visas were issued in September of 2020 compared to September of 2019, then that's going to be a good indication to show how bad it is right now. For example, if you look at, this is a number we got yesterday, if you look at the U.S. Embassy in Montreal, Canada, so last year they issued about 51 K1 visas around the same time of the year, and this year they only issued 7 K1 visas. If you look at the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi, right? So last year they're looking at about 101 K1 visas, and this year they only have 6 visas. Last year they had, 58 visas in Nairobi last year, and this year only 6 K1s. Again, you see the big difference right now as to the amount of visas that are actually being issued. It just tells you that it's not just COVID. Now, the other thing is that the attorneys are going to try to show that a lot of these embassies are saying that they're not open because of COVID. They can't issue visas because of COVID. They're bringing up health issues, health risks for why they don't issue visas. And of course, the plaintiff are going to show that that's not true, because they are visas that be issued for non-immigrant categories like F1s and some H1Bs. They are being issued in some consulates, but the immigrant visas categories are completely shut down in many of these embassies. Why is that, right? So, and again, government statistics are showing that visas are being issued, so they kind of mix immigrant visas and non-immigrant visas. They put them in one pile. And while the K1 is a non-immigrant visa, it is important to look at the K1 in the realm of immigrant visas, because K1 visas are handled by immigrant visa categories of the U.S. Embassy. So it's important to know that if there are no immigrant visas being issued, so K1 visas are being pulled into that section as well, and as a result, virtually almost no K1 visas are being issued right now. And again, that's one of the things that the judge is going to look at and say, hey, how many visas are actually being issued, how many visas you are actually able to issue, and if you're not opening your embassy because you blame it on COVID, why are you opening it up for other appointments and discriminate against immigrant visas? Because right now, immigrant visas, we think it's political, right? Non-immigrant visas, F1, J1s, we had that litigation going on 2 weeks ago, and they're allowing those visas to come in. But on the immigrant visas, it feels like it's almost like a political way for them to push and not allowing people to come here to get the green cards, right? So it's more of a political stunt as opposed to an actual necessity for the embassies not to open. So, and again, they should be looking at K1 visas in the same category as CR1 visas, F categories, IR1 visas. The same thing should be applying to the K1 visas. That's a category that they're going to see that no visas were issued. So so that's kind of like so that's kind of some of the things that they're looking. So the judge is going to will decide whether these bans, the proclamation, actually do not apply to visas. It doesn't prohibit the government from actually issuing visas, and also specifically look at the unreasonable delays. And again, those of you guys that are considering if you should expedite your K1 visa, I think you should, because if you get denied or expedited, and now this litigation is pending, and you're going to be trying to say, hey, I tried everything I could to get my case to the front of the line, and they still refused, then you may have some good standing in the future if we do decide to sue them individually or as part of this lawsuit. So I do encourage people to expedite their K1 visas if you have the good reason for it. It's worth it. And like I said, we do a lot of these expedited, and I welcome you. If you have questions, just post a comment, and I'll put also our contact information. If you need help with your expedited, by all means do it. So that's kind of my update. Lawsuit was filed. First hearing was yesterday. In 2 weeks, there's going to be another hearing, and there's going to be probably a ruling on this lawsuit. So hopefully we'll get some good news for our K1 families. And as soon as I have that information, I will immediately post it here. Whether we get the decision, we'll get the copy of it, and I'll put it here on our YouTube community page. I did a video earlier to our membership, and I recorded it, so I'll post it later on. We have a membership. It's called immigrationu.com, where we basically do Zoom calls once a week. We have a lot of K1 families in there. We have CR1 families. We have a lot of different visa categories in there. If you're interested to join our private community, where we can get updates on a daily basis as litigation continues, as your case continues, and you feel overwhelmed, whether you have an attorney or not. This is a place for virtual support, virtual community. So join immigrationu.com. The link is in the description of our video. And if you have any questions about litigation, just let me know. I'm happy to answer those questions. Those in the comments. I'm not going to take... oh, here we go. People say more volume. Can you hear me? All right. So I will put more of these updates as soon as we have them. So like I said, if you have any questions, please post them in the comments. Hopefully you can hear me well. I will not take questions today, but I will make another live stream specifically answering your questions, and we'll go through all the different things. We have questions about F1 here, with CR1 questions, different embassies. So I'll make a separate video updating you on specific embassies when they're going to reopen. I'll do it next week, and in that video we'll be able to, I'll do it live, and then I'll be able to answer your questions. And another fun fact, if you're watching this video, you should see at the bottom of the video, there should be some of our t-shirts and our hoodies. We just started a new line of immigration inspiration t-shirts and hoodies. And if you see it, you can purchase it right from our channel. And I'm super excited about this. And I want to see many of you wearing our stuff and supporting immigration as we go through these tough times. So once again, thank you for watching. Post your comments in the questions. Share this video with somebody that may care. And we'll see you next week. We'll do a full session of questions and answers. And I'm happy to be there for you. Thank you for your support. And you guys are the best. Here we go.